Ain't nothing like a hot, traumatized boy that thought he was ugly because he was bullied as a kid, am I right?
I just need to give a huge spoiler warning. I'll be going over major plot points in the book, so if you don't want to be spoiled, click away now. Also, a lot of the art that I've used in this video is from the official manhwa, which is the comic designed by Star Ember of Heaven Official's Blessing. If you want to read that on Bilibili Comics, you can click the link in my description. And remember to click subscribe.
What's up guys, it's Kictor, and today I've got a really easy video. I'm gonna talk about why I love Hwa Chang. Number one, he is a badass. I know I've said and been criticized for saying that Hwa Chang is an to everyone other than Xilian, but that's not exactly true. He's of course got a really smart mouth and a huge bias towards Xilian, but for example, how he made Ming just goes to show how much of a hero he's capable of being. When Hwa Chang was still Wu Ming, as a weak ghost spirit inside Mount Tonglu, he stumbled upon a group of humans who were trapped in the mountain. Wu Ming had protected them against all the demonic beings until they were cornered. At that point, Wu Ming was so weak, he was one hit away from being completely dispersed. Essentially, like, dead for real this time. To forge a super strong weapon, you have to use a body part. And he had a whole pack of humans there ready that he could have easily forged into a weapon. And just as he was about to pick one to save the others, he changed his mind and pulled out his own eyeball and forged a Ming with it. His soul was so unstable in that moment that it should have killed him, but the opposite happened, and he became completely awakened. And this heroic moment got the attention of the heavens, and Hwa Chang was asked to ascend and become a god. But also knowing the complete f***ery that the heavens are up to, Hwa Chang was like, yeah, nope, and ascended right away. Knowing he could be more powerful as a ghost than being controlled up in heaven, because he also knew what they did to Xilian, and he wasn't about to stand for that shit. He's like, I'm gonna go make my own city with blackjack and one day it'll be a place for me and my husband. Reason number two, he acts on his revenge and vengeance. And this is where he completely differs from Xilian and this ideology. And I think something beautiful with Hualien is that they're able to have their differing views together. Right from the start, when he was a little kid, he was so scornful that he wanted to actually ruin the parade that Xilian was a part of. He'd been abused, he'd been bullied, and he was ready to kill himself during the parade to leave a mark on this day that was supposed to be for a celebration. Luckily, you know, he was caught and eventually overcame his suicidal thoughts and tendencies. But even as a little kid, he always had this vengeance in him. He's like, you know what? The world has been unfair to me. Well, I'm gonna fight back. I'll show him who's boss by killing myself. In a really dramatic way, it really would have honestly left a mark on the pavement. If you guys remember in book 4, there were a bunch of heavenly officials and Mu Qing who were up on a mountain and they wanted to practice meditation in the same area that Xilian was. But they didn't want Xilian to be in their area and they were super freaking rude to him. This is where Mu Qing lost all his points for me because he did not defend Xilian. This is also the moment why Hwa Chang is okay with Mu Qing dying, because in this moment, Mu Qing was a well, those 33 officials that were up on the mountain disrespecting Xilian, he then challenged all of them. He said if any of them won, he would give them his ashes to scatter and disperse his soul. So he would die, like for real, like no more, he's gone. That's how confident he was that he would beat everyone. And they all took up the challenge and they all freaking lost. And he didn't just fight all of them in battle, some were civil gods and he had to debate against them. And of course he won. This guy studied hard. He knows his shit. He's been around the world, taken names, taken numbers, but none of them held up their end of the bet. They were supposed to retire from heaven, and since they didn't, Hwa Chang then went and burned down all their temples. Those guys, they had it coming. They were to his beloved. Of course he's gonna go burn down their temples. And when they rebuilt the temples, he burned them down again, until eventually they had no followers and ended up dying that way. Essentially, don't with Xilian or you're gonna get Hwa Chang's vengeful wrath, and that's hot. Also, Qirong, any moment he has, he's there to beat the hell out of Qirong. Not only because Qirong tried to kill him when he was like 5 years old by putting him in a sack and tying him to the back of a carriage and riding around with him and breaking all his ribs. Yeah, this is up. Book 2 is up, guys. But no, I have a feeling Hwa Chang extra hates Qirong because of how freaking terrible Qirong is to Xilian. Remember when he ruined Xilian's mom's body? When Xilian was at his lowest and all he wanted to do was look at the body of his mother and pray? And Qirong destroyed the bodies and then chickened out by hiding in the body of another man who had a son so that Xilian couldn't even kill him, because if he did, he'd be killing this kid's dad. Qirong is an man. I am like totally the type of person that loves like simping for villains and stuff, but no. Chi-Rong sucks and Hua Cheng hates him and beats the shit out of him at every chance he gets, and I'm here for it.
Of course I'm not a monster and realize he did change and had a really good ending, but yeah, he was still a huge jerk to Xi Lian for many years.
Next reason, he is so steadfast in his dedication. Hua Cheng looked for Xi Lian for 800 years. There's no question, he didn't have any other lovers or gods or anything that took his mind away from that one true crown prince. And this dedication started very young for him. After he found meaning for Xi Lian, he would take shelter in a small temple. Normally the statues of Xi Lian would have a sword in one hand and a flower in the other. But this statue was falling apart and the flower had actually crumbled. Every day, Hua Cheng would go and get a flower and place it on the hand of that statue. Every single day, without fail. That scribble on his arm, that's Xi Lian's name that he did when he was a kid. His writing is still atrocious. It's so bad that Xi Lian can't even decipher what it says until the very end of the book when you find out that it's his name. And of course, one of the most beautiful standout moments in the book is at the Mid-Autumn Festival. And this is where the gods all sit around and party and they wait to see how many lanterns that their followers put in the sky for them. Hua Cheng put 3,000 lanterns in the sky for Xi Lian. 3,000. Do you know how many lanterns the next person down got? Not even 1,000. And that was for the emperor. One believer sent 3,000. That was such a beautiful moment of his devotion and also another little haha you guys in heaven moment for Hua Cheng.
Next point.
He loves Xi Lian with his body and his soul. That ring that he gave Xi Lian, just as a gift or some nice jewelry, holds his ashes. And your ashes as a ghost, that's what's keeping you here. If your ashes get destroyed, you are no longer. That is the end of your soul. You will be dispersed and you can't come back to life. It's truly the end-all be-all. Once Xi Lian and Hua Cheng become better friends, Xi Lian asks Hua Cheng pretty nervously, like, hey, like, where are your ashes? Like, they're in a really safe space, right? And Hua Cheng's like, oh, they're in the safest space. And if that space ever did get destroyed, I would have no reason for living anyways. So I'm perfectly okay with them where they are. And where they are is around Xi Lian's neck. So if there was no more Xi Lian, Hua Cheng wouldn't have a need for living. Also, earlier on in his life, signs of his devotion and his love are in the Cave of 10,000 Gods, where he carved thousands of statues of Xi Lian. Of course, in the book, when we get to this moment, he's like kind of ashamed and embarrassed of them and he tries to cover up all their faces. And my favorite thing about him is that he is emotional and vulnerable with Xi Lian. In the Cave of 10,000 Gods, when Xi Lian starts to figure out that Hua Cheng's beloved might actually be him, when he questions Hua Cheng on it, Hua Cheng starts shaking. The strongest, vengeful Ghost King starts shaking like a little boy because he's so afraid of what Xi Lian will say, if he'll return his feelings, if he'll be disgusted. He can't handle it. He actually asks Xi Lian to not answer because he'd rather go on not knowing than face a no. In this moment, he's just such a little boy here, looking up at the one that he loves, and of course, Xi Lian embraces him and returns his feelings, and all is well. And it's beautiful, but just the fact that he had that little moment of vulnerability, you know how much Xi Lian means to him, how much he loved him. There are all these huge acts of love, like the lanterns, the statues, the ashes, but in that moment, just the most human shaking of being so full of emotion because you love him so much. That was a moment I knew that Hua Cheng's love for him was unlike anything else. And one final thing is that Hua Cheng is hot, but he doesn't know it, which makes him even hotter. Ain't nothing like a hot, traumatized boy that thought he was ugly because he was bullied as a kid, am I right? He just needs to listen to One Direction sing him beautiful, and then maybe it'll really get through to him. But I think an eternity spent at Xi Lian's side might make him realize it one day. A lot of the gorgeous art that I've used in this video is actually from the Heaven Official's Blessing manhwa that you can read at Bilibili Comics. So I've got a link to that down below. Definitely give it a read. It helps with the hiatus right now while we're in between chapters. Just go ahead and read your favorite part from the beginning and you'll feel a lot better. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up and click subscribe. And if you're interested in joining my YouTube membership and helping support my dream of doing YouTube full-time, you can click the join button down below. And it's a monthly subscription with different perks like behind the scenes videos and members only live streams. So if you're interested in that, be sure to click join down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Fingers crossed for more Hualien content soon, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!